This episode of Star Trek includes scenes of sexual assault. Therefore, this episode of Humanist Trek includes discussions of this topic. Listener discretion is advised.
Perhaps I could use this as an excuse to go to those far-off planets with little polka-dotted people if necessary, and be able to talk about love, war, nature, God, sex, all those things that go to make up the excitement of the human condition.
I'm Captain James Kirk.
Spock.
Your move, Captain.
Jim Kirk of the Enterprise.
What's going on?
I'm James Kirk. These people are my friend and my shipmate. Leave my crew alone.
Out of the question.
How about that?
James Kirk.
It fits like a glove, Captain.
Oh, the bonehead ideas.
Gentlemen, I'm Captain James Kirk. Get out of my chair. Get out of it now.
My greetings and felicitations, Captain. So good of you and your officers to, drop in. Absolutely smashing.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Humanist Trek. It's a Star Trek podcast about the humanism in Star Trek. I'm Sarah Ray.
And I'm Allie Ashmead.
And this is a combat episode. Allie, talk to me about your recent Taekwondo adventure.
So I, a week or so ago, depending on when this comes out, attended the U.S. Open Taekwondo Hanmadang, which is basically a Taekwondo competition. It's a competition that was held in Colorado Springs, but it's welcoming all Taekwondo students from all over the country. If you've been listening for a while, you know that I've been taking Taekwondo for about a year, almost a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a green belt now. And one of the things that we have to do, or in order to get our black belt eventually, up to that point, our instructors encourage us to do competitions. And the school's requirement is that you do at least 5 of any competition. By the time you go for your black belt, you should have done.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And it's kind of like a mini Olympic Games for Taekwondo.
Uh-huh.
So you basically have all of these different events that you can choose to be a part of. And so months before, our instructors are like, okay, what do you want to do? Are you competing in like sparring? Because that's actually fighting.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, yeah, you're in a ring and you're fighting someone else. So you've got pads on and everything that you're fighting. Showing your traditional forms. There's board breaking and all kinds of variations of that that you can sign up for. And they do it by age group and by belt and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I decided to do the traditional form, individual traditional form, which for every belt, you have to learn a specific form, which is kind of like a series of movements about a minute long.
Okay.
And so it's like, fine, I can do that.
This is a memory thing. I'm out.
Oh, well, trust me.
I got to remember shit. Forget it.
And it's not just
you've
got to remember movement.
Yeah.
You've got to remember foot placement and all that stuff and power. And you've got to you have to be so present and aware of body movement and everything. So we were learning it anyway. So I just decided I'm going to learn my form and perfect it and be able to present it. Mm-hmm. And then they were trying to get me to sign up for other stuff. And I'm like, I don't really want to, but fine. I feel because I want to represent the school, our U.S. Taekwondo Center. There's centers all over, and it's kind of like a chain in a way.
Okay.
And so we were hosting the event, and there hasn't been an event since 2019 because of COVID. And so this was the first one since then because it's every year.
Cool. Yeah. And
so this was especially special. So last week after work, I'd go 2 hours of training. Normally my training is 1 hour, but the school wanted to help everyone, get ready for it. We wanted to look good and win our divisions or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So 2 hours of training every freaking day after work.
Jesus.
And my body was hurting and, making sure I'm kicking right and moving and all this stuff. So we went to the event on Friday, which I signed up for, not realizing I had to take the day off work.
Oops.
I was like, oops. So my boss was cool. I'm like, I signed up for something and I didn't look at the small print. So I took the Friday off. It was basically get there at 7:30 in the morning, an hour drive. So we had to leave at 6 a.m. It was crazy. Yeah. Wear our uniforms, carry food, and then wait for our number to be called for our division. And, it was scary, but it was really fun. People, all shapes, sizes, ages, colors. We even had a para section for people who are disabled to be able. It was really fun. It was so inclusive. Win or lose, it's just about the thing that the sport teaches you is perseverance and integrity and indomitable spirit and all those things that Taekwondo is about. It's not about like fighting. It's about mastering your skill and being, it is really about being inclusive too.
Well, I have to make a joke about.
Of course. Go ahead.
I have to make a joke about it's not all about winning, because I saw pictures of you with some medals around your neck. You were like doing Taekwondo poses atop a pile of young people that you had just vanquished in battle.
I totally was not. So I'm old.
They didn't let you fight the young kids.
No, we have to fight people our own age and gender. So yeah, they separate us by age. So yeah, I placed second in my division for traditional form, and then pretty much last place for which is third place for board breaking, power, skipping, side flip, board breaking.
Okay.
The boards we have in school are different than the boards that they actually use in the competition.
The ones in class they ordered from a Hollywood prop shop that sells breakaway boards.
They're made of a different wood. They're just as thick, but they're made of different wood. And I did break 3 with my foot at one time before. Not this time.
Wow.
So yeah, but it was cool. It was so cool anyway. And then to see all these people just doing all their things and knowing how much they've trained. And the last thing I'll say is we had a really cool group of students come from Shinhan University in South Korea.
Mm-hmm.
It was 21 students and 7 faculty members. So they came to the U.S. This is a school. It's probably the only school that they changed into a Taekwondo school. So the only thing they specialize is Taekwondo. So
now, is this the place you went when you were there? Okay.
No,
different place.
We didn't. Yeah, we didn't. We went all over South Korea. We didn't get to visit the university. We did go to the World Taekwondo headquarters, which is the Kuki one. So some of these students probably have gone there and just trained or competed.
Yeah.
But these are super young, like 19, 20, and less than 25 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Their whole curriculum in college is Taekwondo.
Wow.
So they came and like wiped the floor with us. I mean, they were sweet.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, they're so good. At the very end of the second day, which this is a 2-day long event, kind of like the Olympics, they basically had a showdown of all of the masters when they call people who train, and you have to get to a certain level to where you can be an instructor, and even past that you become a master, and then beyond that a grandmaster. So they basically had a competition between the students and all the masters, basically kicking boards, but in a demo kind of way. So they did all kinds of flips and set them. There was one they set up to 15 feet, and the guy stepped on someone's arms and then did a flip. And I mean, I got lots of videos, but it was crazy. So it was so much fun and really cool.
Well, it sounds to me like your thrall training is going well.
Oh my God.
Let's talk about it. Star Trek, the original series, season 2, episode 16, The Gamesters of Triskelion.
Sir, contact with an object. It's moving toward us.
No visual contact yet.
Deflector is full intensity.
Mr. Sula, yes, Captain. Anything on your scanners?
It's coming at light speed.
Collision course. Visual contact.
Anything, over?
All wavelengths dominated by ionization effects, sir.
All engines full stop.
Now, I have to say right off the jump that I've been saying it wrong up until watching the episode. I thought it was like Triskelion, but it's Triskelion.
Oh, yeah, because of I know why. Do you know why?
No.
Okay.
Because of the trinary sun.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which, whatever the fuck that is, I'm assuming there's 3 suns.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like binary stars are the 2 that are locked in orbit of each other or whatever. And when that orbit finally decays and they crash into each other as a nova or whatever, something. I don't know. Thanks for coming to Science Talk with Sarah and Allie.
I'm just wondering, and I should look this up. Is there such thing as a trinary
Oh, I'm sure.
sun?
Probably. So this episode starts in orbit around an uninhabited planetoid, Gamma 2, which Kirk describes in his captain's log. And I'm probably predisposed to this description because of recent New Trek episodes, but it's a galactic gas station. He's talking about like it's got astrogation pumps, gas pumps.
What's an astrogation? What is astrogation?
I don't know. And automatic communications. payphones. On the bridge, Kirk announces that Chekov and Uhura will join him on this away mission for a simple routine check of the facilities. And when they get down to the planet, he calls up Spock and he says, "I'm at a payphone trying to call home."
So the cool thing I loved, as he tells Uhura, "Let's go to the transporter room," there was another woman of color that takes over her station.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I was like, yes, I always want to call that out whenever I see it.
Yes.
I appreciate it.
Yes. So as they're standing on the transporter pad and Kirk orders Scotty to energize, they are yoinked out of there before Scotty can even touch the controls.
Oops. They appear in the next scene, lying on the ground in like an arena.
Yeah.
With some weird 3-pronged design.
Yeah. There's like this emblem on the floor. Mm-hmm. And we see that they stand up to get their bearings, and we see that we're on planet Paint the Soundstage Walls green now. And this area that they're in has like metal fencing, like 12-foot tall, whatever metal fencing all the way around. And those fences have that same emblem thing on it too.
Mm-hmm.
So that's important for something. It's apparent that they're not in Kansas anymore. This isn't Gamma 2. The color of the sky is all wrong. And this planet has a trinary sun.
If you were tuned into our science chat, you'd know that is 3 suns.
So back on the Enterprise, Scotty calls up Spock on the bridge, and he's like, "Yeah, so the captain, Uhura, and Chekov just disappeared." And Spock's like, "Well, that is how transporters tend to work, Mr. Scott." I assume you mean some deviation from the normal operation of the transporter. Spock's explaining again. Scotty's like, "Don't talk down to me like that, Spock. Like, what do you take me for? I wouldn't have called if they just transported normally."
And Spock does his thing as the captain. He's like, "Okay, have you checked this? Have you checked this?" And of course he has.
He's like the guy on the other end of technical support who's pulled up page 1 of the how to respond to a caller manual.
Right.
And he's
Step
like,
1.
"Thank you for calling technical support. Have you tried reversing the controls? Please turn the transporter system off and back on again."
Yes.
And Scotty is me in this moment because Spock is giving all the like tier 1 tech support answers, things to try. And Scotty's like, "Bruh, I'm the expert down here. I've obviously tried turning it off and back on again. Like, don't talk to me like I..." And I do that every time I have to call tech support for something. I'm like, "Look, I was building computers when your grandmother was in diapers. Don't tell me."
Yep. Spock is still like, it's, power surge. Nope. Then still recheck your equipment. I'll go scan for them on the planet.
Back on the planet, they're still trying to figure out exactly where they are. They try to call the Enterprise with no success. And finally, someone approaches them. 4 someones, actually. One from each corner.
Fucking lost it.
Yeah, let's talk about these people. So they come out of the corners and they're all holding like knives and spears and stuff. And so it's like 4 against 3, perhaps. And they're closing in on our heroes. So we got Andre the Giant.
Yes, with a really bad tooth problem.
Yeah.
I hated that whatever he did with whatever they did to his mouth, they like put some prosthesis in to where he had fangs, but he couldn't close his mouth.
Yeah.
He couldn't close his mouth, so
it was very Neanderthal looking.
Mm-hmm.
Sort
very
of
much.
Look. Then we got a couple of drag queens.
Yes.
And then the 4th guy, I didn't really know how to describe this guy. He's more the normal one, I think, in the bunch.
Normal murdering white dude. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, normal.
Yeah. They have these collars on their necks with that same geometric shape as all of the logos everywhere.
It kind of looks like a super. You know what? It looks like a
Superman logo. Yeah.
At least with the shape of it. It's not the S, but the shape of it looks like the diamond.
Yeah.
Superman
Yeah.
logo.
This is kind of like a triangular shaped hexagon. And a couple of these people have blue ones, and one of them is red. Another one is yellow. My favorite part of this set, of this sort of triangle shaped hexagon thing on the floor, where each of the 3 main like long sides are, there is a white bench straight off the sidelines of the local high school football field.
Well, I mean,
These
yeah.
locker room benches were, yeah. Kirk orders phasers, but those don't work either, so...
Star Trek fight!
For some reason, Kirk takes on the normalish sized dude while Chekov goes after Andre the fucking giant.
Yeah, that's not right.
Poor Chekov. And Uhura is left with the 2 drag queens. How is this shit fair?
No.
Although Uhura can pull her shit. I'm not worried about her.
They didn't show her fighting because she can do some moves, but they didn't show her fightings. And so Chekov is just being held by Andre the Giant, or Klug, as we later learn his name to be. And then Uhura is held by the 2 women while we get to watch Kirk toss around and be tossed around by this other guy.
So they all kind of stop and watch Kirk fight like this, which I thought was weird. Why they weren't all continuing to fight. But we go to theme as one of the drag queens runs over with her big old spear-looking thing and pins Kirk on his back. After the theme, Captain's log explains that these other people are from various races across the galaxy. Suddenly, this bald, ashy, vampire-looking dude appears. And I'm not kidding. He's wearing this black robe thing with a high collar that's all red and glittery on the inside.
Yep. And he has the worst makeup job of, like, was he supposed to look diseased?
Something like that. Or like
if they were
skin of
it
sort,
was very
some
patchy.
sort. Yeah.
Weird. Very strange.
He introduces himself as Galt, master thrall of the planet Triskelion. And this is where I was like, damn, I've been saying it wrong this whole time. And he's very pleased with what he's seen so far. He's also wearing one of those dog collars with the little shapes on it, but his shape is divided into red, yellow, and blue. So that, I guess, distinguishes him as the master thrall.
Now, thrall means slave.
Yeah.
It's curious why they chose that word as opposed to slave, but I thought it was interesting to maybe, I don't know.
Right, to maybe separate it somehow, like linguistically. Like, because I don't think a lot of people know, you know.
But they'll come to realize what the meaning of thrall is.
Oh, yes.
And rather than saying, I think it was clever, actually, to do it that way, because then they come to realize, thrall is actually just a slave.
Yeah. Yeah. So the away team is taken down to some kind of cell where they're shackled to the wall, and now they have these collars on. But theirs are like a white color. And Galt is like, okay, now you're ready for your training. And Kirk asks, like, how do you know our names? The Providers. Another band name, by the way, like the Proclaimers, the Providers. Yeah. The Providers arranged for their transportation and, of course, passed along their personal information. And they intend for the away team to be trained and spend the rest of their lives here.
But you know what? Being a thrall is going to be beneficial for them. It's going to benefit them, I promise. You know, just like, I know you don't see it now, but I promise you it's going to benefit you later on.
Yeah. Kirk also tries to play the, like, don't you know who we are card? Like, we're the Federation. This has got to be some kind of mistake. And Galt is like, nope, you're thralls now. On the bridge, Scotty arrives to report to Spock that he's done a thorough technological investigation. He installed all the driver updates, scanned for malware. Whatever happened had nothing to do with the transporter or any of the other systems on the Enterprise. And Scotty's got that like smug, I told you so look on his face right here, which I loved.
And Spock's like, yeah, I'm beginning to believe you. I did 2 sweeps of the planet and there's no sign of life. And then, of course, McCoy is like, I know I've said this so many times where McCoy comes in, can offer absolutely nothing to the conversation. But then they're like, what are you doing about it? You know? So he's like, what the devil is happening? Does that mean their atoms are just floating out there? And then Spock's like, no, but even their particles would show up on our sensors. And so Scotty is doing what McCoy usually does, is he's like, okay, so where are they? They're expecting all these answers from Spock. Yes, he was left in charge, but Spock doesn't have any answers. And then they just want him to like come up with the answers.
All the answers right now are negative, though. We're just ruling things out, not in. So, you know, which is a good first step in the process if we're going to go do science.
That's what you do when you're troubleshooting.
But they're not getting any satisfying answers, and so he suggests that they continue scanning and hope that a rational explanation presents itself. And McCoy's right there. He's ready to pounce.
Oh, did you say hope?
Hope, you said. I thought you said that was a human failing. And Spock's, again, always with the last word. True, Doctor. Constant exposure does result in a certain degree of contamination. Meanwhile, Kirk, Chekov, and Uhura are brought to their quarters. We're in a hallway with various iron bar doors down the hallway.
Oh, look, a cage. This looks familiar. I wonder if this was the same set.
Oh, I wonder.
I didn't think about that.
Each of the doors has the prisoner's name on it. So they do that communicate without talking to each other, look back and forth thing. And on cue, they try to make a break for it. But Galt's eyes light up and the Starfleet's collars all light up and they all drop to the ground and they're shaking in pain. So here's a great example of TOS versus TNG. Okay. Picard would have asked what the hell are these collars for long before trying to make an escape.
Yep.
Excuse me. What did these collars do? Okay, I guess I'm not going to make a run for it.
I mean, Kirk was always the swashbuckling, impulsive kind of captain, so I'm not surprised he didn't ask. And of course, it wouldn't make good TV if he asked first.
Right. Once again, Spock and McCoy are set at odds about how to proceed. Spock's following the logical steps and McCoy's screaming, "Why don't you do something?" And
this is where, Spock is thinking basically what I would say is okay, I would welcome a suggestion from you. You want to tell me what to fucking do? Why don't you give me some suggestions? And of course McCoy's well, this is the first time you've ever asked me for anything, and it has to be an occasion like this. Basically, he can't really help, but he just wants to yell at Spock.
But that's every occasion.
I know.
Every occasion he can't help.
I'm shut the fuck up, McCoy.
Back in Cell Block D, our team is discussing, the Enterprise is going to be looking for us, right? Well, yeah, but we don't even know where we are. How will they find us? That sort of thing. And one of the dudes from earlier shows up with a tray that's got a metal pitcher and cup on it and introduces himself to Uhura as Lars, her drill thrall.
The words even made me cringe.
Fast forward a few clicks here, friends, because then he goes into her cell and in shadow, we see him try to rape her.
Basically, Kirk demands that, what do you want from her? Because I love how protective Kirk is of Uhura during this whole episode. So he's what do you want from her? And Lars is that's not your concern. Your drill thrall, you'll get yours. Know what I mean? Right. So then he opens Uhura's door and goes in, and she's screaming, "What are you doing? Get out!" And then you kind of see them in the shadows, kind of struggling, and the screams are pretty disturbing.
Yep.
But you kind of get the idea of what's happening.
It seemed very progressive is the word for the 60s, to show a scene like this on television in the 60s. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what the word is, but anyway.
But this wasn't the first sexual assault type show that we saw. So
for sure.
Yeah.
As Uhura is screaming for her life, one of the drag queens from earlier shows up with her tray, and she's coming for Kirk, and he's freaked out, worried about Uhura. So we get concerned Kirk face to commercial. Right back into that moment, Lars, defeated for the moment, tells Uhura that it is not allowed to refuse selection. And then he leaves her cell. So they were selected to be together and he was coming to get his.
Right. Or to breed, because they maybe that's what happens in slavery is they want to breed other slaves. So yeah, disturbing. And she's fuck you, get out. Yep. And he leaves.
So we didn't really distinguish this earlier, but what I call Kirk's drag queens. Kirk's drag queen she is not a drag queen. She is more like a stripper, maybe. She's got some sexy, go-go, that's the word. She got some sexy outfit. And then the other one is supposed to be twinsies, but definitely comes off as either a drag queen or one of my people. And she's got like this orange skin, kind of an orange yellow tint.
Greenish,
Yeah,
yellow
it was hard to
skin,
tell.
slightly green, with some kind of orange wig.
Yeah.
And they changed her voice.
It was a lower voice.
To low, yeah.
It, yeah. So Kirk's drag queen orders him to step away from the door, and Kirk's like, it's not rape if I consent.
And he's going to consent.
Yeah, oh, yeah. And she's like, shut up, dumbass. It's time to eat. And he's like, I know that's what I'm trying to say.
Oh, my.
And then she plops down on a seat and crosses her arms like she's not amused at all.
Like, this is the nourishment interval, bitch.
Eat. Back on the Enterprise, Spock records the log entry. They've been searching for nearly 2 hours, but even the computer isn't helpful because they have absolutely no data to feed it.
There's another woman on the bridge. Yay, booyah.
Yes, Ensign Haynes.
Yeah, she took over for Chekov. I love this.
Yes.
Love this. Thank you, Star Trek. Thank you, Gene Roddenberry.
And she's working Spock's station. Even.
Oh, that's right. She works Spock's station.
And then she bumps. Yeah, they're all cross-trained. Yeah.
Yes.
She's got some fluctuating energy readings on a hydrogen cloud nearby.
Hate it when that happens.
Mm-hmm. Get some ointment for that. And then it's radiating too much energy to be natural, and Spock picks up an ionization trail. And the computer doesn't have any known possible cause of this, so it's a mystery. We have to investigate.
Fucking McCoy, like he asking like he knows something. Oh, well, what could account for that, Spock? Shut up.
Right?
Shut up.
And McCoy's like, what the hell, man? We're gonna just leave and follow some cloud around? Like, Doc, just 3 minutes ago you were bitching about Spock not doing enough. Like, and I know they give this to McCoy all the time, and it's trying to show some like emotion versus logic thing, but I just don't like the way it plays.
And I don't like that Scotty is doing it now.
Yeah.
If you don't have any good suggestions, then you follow the chain of fucking command and you do what Spock told you to do. It's like whenever Spock is in charge, they feel the need to question him.
Yeah.
And they don't respect him as a captain, and I don't like that. In
Chekov's cell, the orange drag queen comes in and is like,
he looks scared.
Chekov's terrified. They're like, you have been selected for me. And she sort of chuckles and is like, oh, no, I'm just your drill thrall. But she's like, it is a nice name. Chekov. Can't say his name. So this is Tamoon, and Chekov is really nervous about this whole damn thing. And I tried really hard to read this as like just the whole situational thing, and not because this Tamoon character seems coded as trans to me.
I don't know.
But I don't know.
I didn't understand what his fear was coming from.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But he was.
Was it like what we just saw happen to Uhura is going to happen to me? Like, I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know their intention behind it. So yeah, you're right. He was visibly, I won't say fear, but just I won't
really
say
uncomfortable
either.
Really uncomfortable.
It's uncomfortable. Yeah.
So she's talking about how she's going to train him well so that her provider will take him. And maybe if her provider is happy, they might be selected for each other then. And
he's like, great.
She's like right up against his side, and puts her chin up on his shoulder, like longingly looking up at him. That was the weirdest.
And she, at one point, because she's bigger than him, she's kind of a hefty woman, and so she takes his shoulders and like shakes him, you're a fine specimen. So yeah, he's like in trouble.
In Kirk's cell, he's digging into his pile of fruit gummies, and he's really
starving.
Really surprised at how good they actually are. And we learn in this scene that these collars they're wearing have a white color because they have to be trained first so that they can be sold, and then the color will change to that of their provider. And Kirk's like, wow, this really sounds a lot like slavery to me.
Mm-hmm. And then instead of saying sold, she called it, you'll be vended.
Yeah.
And he's like, you mean sold? Just say sold.
Yep. Kirk's like, I know what that means. Provider is owner, vended is sold. This is straight up slavery.
Exactly.
So he tries to push a little bit and get some more information about these collars. Like he asks if Galt is the only one that can operate them. How do they work? But Drag Queen Shauna shuts this line of questioning down pretty quickly. So Kirk tries another angle. Flirting.
Yeah, that actually, look, that works. That always works.
It's his best move. He tells her she's beautiful, and she's like, doesn't even know what that word means. So he holds up this metal tray so that she can see her reflection. And he's like, look, you're fucking hot. And if I wasn't using all of my energy to figure out how to get the hell out of here right now, we'd probably fuck.
Yeah. We'd be horizontal right now.
Yeah.
But as he starts asking her, like, where was she born? And she's like, born? I've always been here. So that to me meant she was born into slavery.
Yeah.
She's never been free. So then he asks about her parents, her mother and father. And she's like, oh, the ones who bore me. Well, she was killed in a freestyle match. I was like, oh, shit. Kirk's like, freestyle? She's like, oh, don't worry. You learn.
Yeah, you're going to find out. But he keeps trying to dig for more info, but a gong sounds and some red lights start flashing in the room. And she's like, oh, time for training. Here, this is your training harness. Put it on. And Kirk takes his shirt off and he puts the harness on. And then we cut over to Sulu. Oh, my.
I meant Sulu. He was not in this episode
No, he
at all.
wasn't. No.
Darn it.
We get a short scene back on the bridge as Spock, McCoy, and now Scotty are discussing the situation. They seem to be headed into an empty sector of space. Backtracking the ion trail takes them near a system, but it's several light years away. And finally, McCoy's like, are you suggesting that they could have been transported over some incredible distance that we can't even dream of? You're out of your Vulcan mind, Spock.
Is this the first time he says that?
I think it is.
I think so.
I think
too.
so.
I was like, I don't, because I've said it in joking. Are you out of your fucking mind? And they've done it a lot in the movies.
Yeah.
But I don't think that.
I think this is the first one. Yeah. Spock is simply following the logical course available given the current data.
Just stop questioning him. Like, stop.
Right? He wouldn't be where he is if he didn't know what he was doing. Back on the planet, they're all in this battle arena again, and they've paired off, sparring with their trainer. And now they all have these spear-looking things. And these things are like these big, long spears with a kind of knife end on one side and a grappling hook end on the other side.
It reminded me of, you've seen those canes that have like the four.
Yes.
Like for older people.
Uh-huh.
Or
put tennis
for
balls
anyone
on
who
them?
can't walk. Yeah. or anyone who has trouble walking, you can put like their 4 little feet. And
Yes.
that's what that looked like.
Galt shows up with yet another thrall we haven't seen before, and he's like, this one was slow in obeying a command. Now he's your target practice. Uhura, get him. And
I thought it was interesting they chose a black man for this. And I also started wondering how all of them were feeling having to film an episode like this that was clearly, talking about slavery.
Yeah.
And this was the 60s. So
Yeah. So Uhura's like, oh, hell no. She's like, I don't care what's allowed or not. I will not do it. And Kirk steps in to say, like, none of us will. This is kind of who we are as Starfleets. As if he's in any position to kind of argue or diplomacy with this guy. Like, he's like, fuck you and fuck the providers you wrote in on.
Yeah, but that's typical Kirk. He's impulsive and hot-headed, and that's what it,
Yeah.
made him so different from probably any other captain.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And then, of course, Chekov again with his Cossacks that he throws at them. And then, of course, Galt's eyes light up again, and the collars light up and deal some pain.
You want to backtalk me, bitch? Yeah, that's what happened. This is the fuck around and find out moment.
Yeah. So he intends to give them a lesson since they're new and having trouble acclimating to the rules here.
He's like, I won't kill you.
Yeah.
I won't kill you just yet.
But Uhura is going to be our target practice now for her defiance. And then he lets Klug loose on her. And Klug, the big Neanderthal dude, Andre the Giant.
With the teeth.
But as they start to try tying Uhura's hands behind her back, Kirk steps in again. And he's like, I'm responsible for my crew. if you need anything, you come through me. And also, I want to see those providers of yours. Well, seeing the providers is not allowed, but taking Uhura's place certainly is. So they tie his hands behind his back, and he will be the target practice now.
Again, I love that they were just really protecting her.
Yeah. And we go to commercial as Klug starts unfurling a super long whip.
Again, slave. Symbols of American slavery. The whip.
Yes. The imagery is definitely calling to that. After the commercial, everyone is sitting on the high school football field benches while Kirk is getting his ass literally whooped by Klug. Like, he's got a big old tear on the back of his uniform shirt now with a bloody wound.
Got to show some skin.
And over this, we get a captain's log. Not much new to report, but we do know somehow that this planet is called Triskelion. Kirk manages to get a kick in between the lashings, and Galt calls for a timeout.
Ding, ding, ding. Go back to your corners. He's like 15 trisecs. What is that? Seconds? I don't know.
Oh, it's got to be because we measured time as distance around the sun.
Oh.
So a trinary sun instead of seconds would be triseconds or trisecs. I bet that's it. So Kirk goes to sit by Shauna and Uhura, and Uhura tries to go to him to console him, but she's held back by Shauna. Shauna gives Kirk something to drink and says it's going to strengthen him, and then offers some tactical advice. Andre's left eye is weak, so if you approach him from that side, she wants to fuck him. That's why.
Oh, I was going to say, because why would you give him
She's
advice?
Like, I'm going to get some. I want him on my team. Well, she's like, I'm his trainer. I want him to do well, maybe.
I'm his drill.
And I hope he'll drill me.
Oh my.
So they resume from their timeout, and Kirk dodges a few more lashes, kicks Klug to the ground, and is able to get that strap off of his hands from behind his back. He gets his hands free, and he uses that strap to choke out Klug from behind. And a booming voice comes from off camera and says, "Hold!" And the bidding begins, starting at 300 quatlus, whatever those are, for all of the Starfleets. And this bidding goes back and forth until we're at 2,000 quatlus, and our crew is sold to Provider 1.
Yes, so there's these voices. Basically, this is a fucking auction, a slave auction.
Yep.
So you get to see the person perform or the slave perform, and then they bid on them. And then the next thing that happens is Galt is like, sold. Now you'll be branded, which they also did in slavery, is they branded based on the owner. Jesus Christ, guys. Why? I mean, this episode is like a lot.
Yeah. It is like direct analogy after direct analogy after direct analogy.
Yeah. So Galt says, okay, so you'll be branded and you'll bear the mark of a fine herd. And just thinking of people, humans or just living things as commodity is something to be useful and not like
looking at them as animals, not people.
Yep. Any further disobedience from them will be punishable by death, which we all knew that was true.
Yeah. And Kirk's like, Jesus Christ, you guys, owning other people, death penalty. What the fuck is this? Texas?
I know, right? Or Florida? No, he's like, this is definitely Texas. Florida.
And then Providers 2 and 3 start betting on whether the humans are even trainable at all. So everything is a fucking gamble with these people. We get another shortcut back to the Enterprise bridge to remind us that they're still searching, but nothing really happens. In what looks like a ruins playset I think we've seen before, this looked familiar to me. Kirk and Shauna come jogging into a small clearing, and Kirk's like, can we please take a break now? And Kirk's all shirtless and oily now and only wearing his harness. And we cut to George Takei again. Oh my.
Oh my. Maybe he's directing. Maybe he wasn't. No, I know he wasn't, but.
And we can see some scars or marks on his chest from this whip.
Watch me whip. Watch me nay. He's like, slow down, wait a minute. We've covered 2 miles, so we're back to
For a
we're going
moment, we're on Imperial, but we'll be in metric again soon.
Yeah. And she's like, fine, since you're tired, we'll stop.
Kirk takes this opportunity to again try to dig for some information. He asks, like, why do the providers enjoy watching others be hurt or killed? Their voices sound mechanical. Are they computers? Do they have bodies?
She's like, this is the way. She doesn't even know what computers are.
And as usual, Shauna isn't very forthcoming with information, but we do learn that the providers have bodies, but not like theirs. And Kirk muses about these ruins. Could they have been the provider's home once? And Shauna's like, look, we really shouldn't be talking about this stuff. So Kirk slips up behind Shauna, puts his hands on his shoulders. The string music swells. He pokes her in the ass with his package, and he starts talking about Earth.
Because that always gets him hard.
Yeah, all those little lights in the sky. Haven't you ever noticed those before? They're all stars, and all those stars have planets around them. Like this one, populated with all kinds of people. I mean, most of them are free, by the way, which is kind of a thing I wanted to talk to you about. And then let's talk about love, baby.
She doesn't know nothing.
No.
What is love? And love is the most important thing on earth, according to Kirk, especially to the certain type of love, like the kind between a man and a woman.
Between the sheets. He's like, hell, even on Earth, we even give up our freedom to be shackled to another person because of love. We give up freedoms for that shit.
I know it's another kind of slavery, but it's different.
He's like, hang on, maybe I'm not making the point I thought I was making. She squicks out a bit at this. She's like, I do not think your words are allowed, and starts to take off. But Kirk stops her and starts asking about the providers again. What do they look like? Where do they live? And she starts to answer, but her collar lights up.
And I'm wondering what took them so long to into this conversation before they decided to like zap her.
Right.
I mean, if they're listening.
Yeah. Why did they let it go this far?
Yep. So she's been writhing in pain, and Kirk is yelling to the sky because he doesn't know where those voices are coming from. And he's like, stop, make it stop. You're killing her. She didn't do anything wrong. It was his fault. He was the one asking all the questions. And so punish him. Punish me. Don't punish her.
Again, he jumps in front of that bullet like he tried with Uhura earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Provider 1 pipes in on the PA system and says, is that what you humans call compassion? It is interesting, but it has no value here. You present many interesting aspects, Captain, but you must learn obedience. Then you will be an excellent thrall. Again, with the red flags all up in my... Yes.
Mm-hmm. So Shanna's okay. They stop zapping her, and he's like, you'll be okay. You're all right. And she's like, oh, you risked yourself for me. Why? And he talks about the custom of his people to help one another when they're in trouble. And he's really just trying to get some booty because he kisses her. He kisses her passionately, and she's like, is this helping too?
And Kirk's like, boing. It's certainly helping something, if you know what I mean.
And she's like, ooh, help me some more. Help me some more, Daddy. She didn't know it could be like this because all her bits are tingling right now.
Now she's curious about life outside of this place.
Mm-hmm.
But Galt pops into the scene to let Kirk know that he's amused the providers, so there won't be any further punishment, and orders him back to his quarters. And he kind of like puts his arms around Shauna, like his sidearm, and they walk off together. Back on the bridge, Spock gets a fantastic speech. McCoy's still doing his judgy shit. Spock wants more than Warp 6, but Scotty and McCoy now both agree that they've already gone too far. Like, whatever happened back in the Gamma system, and now we're just, wild goose chase or whatever. And McCoy makes the fatal error of suggesting that Spock's following a hunch. And Spock says, Doctor, I do not respond to hunches. No transporter malfunction was responsible for the disappearance. They were not within the Gamma system. A focused beam of extremely high intensity light was directed into the Gamma system from the trinary system we are now approaching. No known natural phenomenon could have caused that beam. Does that clarify the situation? Mic drop.
Obama out.
Boom! But then fucking McCoy's like, no, it doesn't. It's still a fancy way of saying that you're playing on a hunch. No, that's evidence, and that's what you have to follow.
Yeah.
As opposed to them two, McCoy and Scotty, and all up in their feelings.
Uh-huh.
And they just need to shut the fuck up and respect the man as a captain, because he is in charge.
Yes. Scotty again sides with McCoy on this one. So Spock gets another fantastic line. He says, I see. Gentlemen, I am in command of this vessel, and we shall continue on our present course. And then they all lean in, and Spock lowers his voice to a whisper and says, unless it is your intention to declare a mutiny.
I loved it.
So good. And they're both like, whoa, buddy, nobody said anything about a mutiny. Whoa.
But then McCoy.
Racist got a racist.
Yep. He's like, who said anything about a mutiny, you stubborn, pointed-eared racist?
There's a moment here where he looks around a little bit and then stops talking. Like, do that every time that you want to say some racist shit until you stop saying some racist shit. Look around and go like, oh, if people hear me saying this, is that going to be a bad thing?
Are they going to think I'm racist if you're about to say some racist shit?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. I was very surprised to see that look on his face because he has been so unapologetically racist to Spock.
Yeah.
For all of this time.
And now he's name calling.
So they agree that if they don't find the lost crew here, they'll go back to Gamma 2 for another search. And Scotty agrees to squeeze a bit more out of the engines. Back in Kirk's cell, Shauna arrives with another plate of gummies. And it's clear that she's got a lot on her mind now. And Kirk calls her out on it. She says he's made her feel strangely. And Kirk's like, well, a lot of ladies do say that.
Well, her bits are tingling. Her tribbles are wet.
Oh my.
She even says that if it were allowed, she would ask that he be assigned a different drill thrall. She's like, I don't want to be in this situation right now with you.
Yeah, he's like, well, I wouldn't like that, Shauna. I wouldn't like that at all. So then he takes her in his arms and he kisses her. And then he punches her. I'm like, couldn't you have, with all your compassion, couldn't you have just done like a Vulcan neck pinch or something?
Right. Yeah.
Why you gotta punch her right in the face? He says, I'm sorry to her unconscious body. He takes her key and unlocks the door.
So now it's clear there's another escape plan kicking off.
Mm-hmm.
He grabs the key fob. He sneaks over to set Chekov free. And Chekov says, this is going to kill our romance. And then we sit to Moon bound and gagged on the floor. And Chekov's like, we were just getting to the good part.
Oh my.
And then they go and they let Uhura out. And then Lars, she obviously can't overpower him physically, but she complained about the food. So he went enough to where he went to report her.
Kirk's plan is to try to find one of those phasers that they had in the beginning and use it somehow to short circuit their collars.
Mm-hmm.
So they take an exit that leads them up into the battle arena, and Galt appears, lights his eyes up, and sends everybody into pain again. And once that's over, Provider 1 says, just a reminder, I like you, Earth people. You're stimulating.
You got a lot of fight in you.
Got some spunk. You got moxie, kid. I love moxie. Moxie's a great fucking word that we don't use often enough. Meanwhile, the Enterprise is rolling up to Triskelion. Life forms detected in a small concentration on the lower hemisphere. Humanoid. And Spock and McCoy argue a little about whether or not to take down a large search party. In the end, Spock insists he will go himself, and this was stupid. Again, I hate when they make biblical references because it just pulls me out of like the futurism of the show.
It had no place in this whole conversation.
No.
It didn't even fit. It was like, we got to throw some biblical stuff in here, so we'll find some place to put it.
So McCoy says, if you're going into the lion's den, you'll need a doctor. And Spock says, Daniel, as I recall, only had his faith. But I welcome your company, Doctor. Like, really? This episode would stand fine without that.
Yes, because first of all, Spock is talking about faith,
Yep.
And that's not a Vulcan thing.
Weird.
Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could have just simply said, Spock says, I'm going, and McCoy says, well, you're going to need a doctor. And, Spock could have his final word of like, normally I don't appreciate your company, but this time, right? There was a moment that could have happened there too.
Yeah.
Scotty's left in command, and as they head to the turbo lift, the doors close on them, and the lights flicker off and on as we hear Provider 1 insist that Spock will not leave the ship.
Like, I guess they never explained how they know who they are. I mean, are they just like all knowing?
I guess they can
telepathic
read their computers or telepathy. Well, because they're somehow now controlling doors on the ship, so there's a telekinesis kind of thing involved.
Yeah, gotta be.
So maybe, yeah. Well, whatever's happening, it seems like that the Enterprise and the people on the planet can hear each other now too.
Yeah, and I don't know how Kirk knew that. So the voice says, none of your controls are going to operate, Mr. Spock. And McCoy's like, what the heck's going on? And then they hear Kirk's voice coming through, and Kirk is screaming up at the sky, saying, Spock, welcome to Triskelion. And then by now it must be obvious to you that you've been expected, because I guess they knew that, of course, they're going to come after them.
Of course. So Kirk explains all the things. This planet is controlled by some beings that call themselves providers because they provide for the needs of their thralls, people stolen from all over the galaxy to fight for the provider's gambling addiction. But Kirk presses again. He's like, the thing is, you see, these providers are a bunch of little bitch-ass punks that won't even show themselves.
That always gets, when you call people out and accuse them of being afraid, then okay.
So they yoink Kirk into the Star Trek cave playset, where we see these 3 little glowy, pulsating, brain-looking things
made of jelly
in what looks like the inside of R2-D2's head if it were made of transparent plexiglass. It's in a little dome thing. Now, I think that these were supposed to match the colors of the branding, right? The red, yellow, and blue. But that blue one to me looked green. And I don't know if it was like the color balance was off from jump or like the remastering fucked it up, but it looked like red, yellow, and green, not blue.
And there's only 3 of them, so they're doing all the slave trading. I'm like, so.
Right. This is also where their power source is, 1,000 meters beneath the surface. Oh, we're back to metric.
Okay, cool.
And it's shielded by all of this rock. So we learn that these beings were once humanoid, but they evolved beyond that by devoting eons to intellectual pursuits. Now they say they're physically simple, but mentally superior creatures. And Kirk's like, objection, Your Honor. A species that enslaves other beings is hardly superior, mentally or otherwise.
Thank you.
Amen.
Thank you, Kirk.
The providers insist that these games are their only source of purpose. They live only to play these games with people. And Kirk's like, yeah, maybe you're not as evolved as you think you are. And when the providers say that they only use inferior beings, Kirk explains that Star Trek, the original series, is all about diversity and compassion, especially compassion for those who are different from ourselves. It's kind of right there. It's all in the name.
Yeah, you guys should watch that show. You should check that out.
Right? It's why I cared so much about the Tribbles not being beamed into space.
Right.
The providers insist that the humans have to die, but also they're going to destroy the Enterprise in a magnetic storm too, so that they can't phone home and summon the fleet.
And Kirk is like, you call yourself superior. Basically, you're just murderers.
But then Kirk is like, okay, maybe Star Trek, the original series, is also about if you can't beat them, join them, I guess. So, like, how about one last wager for old time's sake?
And so he's like, okay, let me, that sounds interesting. Explain yourself.
Kirk's like, you pick the weapons, and we will fight an equal number of thralls. Starfleets versus whoever. He's like, my people pride themselves on being the greatest, most successful gamblers in the universe. We compete for everything, power, fame, women, everything we desire. And it is our nature to win. And I thought, wow, if that is a description of present time, not Star Trek time, right? Because in Star Trek, we like to think that humans have become more evolved than that. But what they're saying is, in the 1960s, we are fucking greedy and compete for everything.
Yeah, yeah. And so then the bidding starts because that piques their interest for 1, 2, and 3 provider. They're starting to like 100, 400, 200 Quadaloos against the newcomers. And finally, one says 500 and contest by multiple elimination. So Kirk is like, wait. We can't wager for stuff like Quatloos. The stakes have to be higher, of course.
All the marbles.
That's what gamblers do is you got to raise the stakes. And so Kirk's like, okay, if we win, the Enterprise and its crew leave in safety and all the thralls on the planet have to be freed. And one of them says they would starve. And Kirk's like, no, you're going to educate and train them to establish normal self-governing culture. I don't know why Kirk thought that they would agree to that, but or that they would even honor anything.
The deal.
They're obviously not. Yeah. But those were his stakes.
Kirk's like, you can definitely train them to govern themselves. It's called colonizing, and like we've done it, millions of times at this point.
Yeah. We can teach you how. Yeah, we can teach you how to do that.
He's like, are you saying that there's something that we puny humans can do that you can't? And they're like, oh, no, absolutely not. We can do it. So they agree on this plan with one minor adjustment. Instead of an even match, they insist that Kirk alone fight 3 opponents of the provider's choosing. With the alternative being death, Kirk accepts these terms. So he's yoinked back into the battle arena, and we finally find out what that design on the ground is all about. It's like this blue thing, field in the background with like this yellow kind of 3-way lightning bolt sort of thing in the middle. And this is for the battle. The 3 opponents can only step in the blue areas, and Kirk can only step in the yellow areas. And you'll notice during this fight, they all step outside of their colors but never get called.
Yep.
And they've decided they're going to broadcast this fight onto the Enterprise view screen, too.
Pay-per-view! Hey, the Enterprise crew gets their pay-per-view match.
The rules of this game are touch an opposing color deprives a contestant of 1 weapon, which never got called, though it happened.
Nope.
An opponent must be killed to be removed from the game. And if an opponent is only wounded, then he'll be replaced by a fresh thrall. On the bridge, here's another one. McCoy goes, "What in the name of heaven is this?" And Scotty says, "Heaven's got very little to do with this." Really? Again? Meh. We don't need that.
Yeah. Star Trek fight! Klug, Lars, and an Andorian walk into a bar. Sounds like a good joke. So he's going against Klug, the guy with the teeth, Lars, average white guy, and then some Andorian that they had never even introduced. And this was really an interesting fight. Kirk pushes over each of the opponents several times. He somehow throws a spear into Klug's stomach and kills him.
Oh my god! They've killed
Klug!
You bastards!
And then he starts fighting with Lars. Lars has some kind of net swinging around. And he captures Kirk's hands in the net with the thing. But then Kirk sees the Andorian about to throw his spear. So he ducks. That kills Lars, I think.
Oh my god! They've killed
Lars!
You bastards!
Now it's just him and the Andorian.
So they're fighting with daggers now, and Kirk tosses the Andorian. And because he's only injured, Galt orders Shauna into the fight to take his place. And she's ready to fight. She's even got like Kirk on the ground with the blade at his chest at one point. But he's able to dodge and get her to the ground with a knife at her throat. And she declares the thralls surrender.
Now, that wasn't even discussed in the rules.
No, it was not.
Because the rules were...
It's like a to the death kind of thing. Yeah.
And he should have killed her.
Yep.
But
for some reason, the providers are like, okay, if you surrendered, then I guess we'll just uphold the agreement and set everybody free. And,
they've been
harm.
ruthless up to this point. And they're like, okay, but this is okay. So, all right, whatever.
Here's another thing I had lots of questions about. Shauna asks Kirk to take her with him, and he says no. Again, does this not rise to the level of Asylum? Like, come on, Kirk, you didn't even get your dick wet, first of all. Take her with you for several reasons.
Yeah, so, I don't understand. So, we come in, we fuck up your, well, not fuck up. Technically, he freed them all.
Right.
But then we're like, oh, hey, we can't do anything else. You know, it's it's none of our business.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
Yeah.
So yeah, he could have offered asylum to all those, or he could have, like they've done on other planets, left a crew that would help them acclimate
Right.
after being slaves or being born into slavery.
Well, he did leave a crew to do that. They're former slave owners?
Yeah, because that's gonna work out. You can totally trust them. I mean, slavery probably benefited them, you know.
Oh, of course, right. And it's not it's not lynching squads anymore. We call it the police these days, but you know, you don't have to worry about them anymore either.
It's fine.
He gives her a farewell kiss and they dematerialize. And Shauna looks towards the sky and says, "Goodbye, Jim Kirk. I will learn and watch the lights in the sky and remember." And we never see her again. The end.
Right.
Boy, I'm sure glad that's over with.
I'm happy the affair is over.
Me too.
A most annoying, emotional episode.
Yeah, but you know, I learned something today.
When dreams become more important than reality, you give up travel, building, creating.
One jealous god, if all else makes a god.
By sparing your helpless enemy who surely would have destroyed you, you demonstrated the advanced trait of mercy.
Frankly, I was rather dismayed by your use of the term half-breed. You must admit, it is an unsophisticated expression.
Oh, man.
Oh, boy.
I mean,
this episode was about slavery. Period, full stop, the end. Like, free will, the value of life beyond being made to perform for someone else's benefit, which rang true as capitalism to me. Like, there was so much in this episode.
Just the aspects of slavery that were pretty horrific to the slaves themselves, like rape, being used as entertainment, the physical violence, and if you're disobedient, quote unquote disobedient, control, like you're going to be here for the rest of your life. People born into slavery, they don't know anything else. So, of course, they're fearful of even talking about anything else because their masters might hear. It's just heavy.
Yeah, it was a lot. There's also the theme of compassion and empathy again, where we see Kirk in his like protective role, where he you know, tries to sub in for first Uhura and then his new drag trainer.
But then he doesn't. He still.
We do, instead of drag race, we do drag trek, and it's all Star Trek themed drag. I know a I know a Star Trek drag person who, like, famous person who we gotta sell this. We gotta workshop this.
Okay, what?
Drag
We're gonna
trek.
have a show, drag trek.
Yeah, there needs to be a TV show that's like a Star Trek themed drag show. Could you imagine it? Drag queens with like big gorn heads and feathers and all kinds of shit. Like, that would be amazing. Okay,
that would be awesome.
And also, like we kind of talked about, but like while I don't like the way they make the characters play it sometimes, the struggle between emotion and logic that we see in Spock and McCoy a lot, where I don't like the way it's played, but the point is right of like, calm your tits, let's follow the science as an approach to things.
Yeah, definitely don't like the way that they do it because they always disrespect Spock.
Yeah.
And
then he turns out to be right in the end.
Yeah. Always.
And
they don't learn.
No.
They do it again on the next episode.
Yeah, we're almost 50 episodes in and they're still doing it.
Still calling him pointy-eared when they don't agree. You can't do that when you don't agree with someone. You can't just attack their whatever physical characteristics that make them different from you. You can't do that because then you immediately lose that fucking argument.
Yeah.
That's like, basically McCoy pulled out the N-word and you can't, sorry, I've stopped listening to you. The minute you do that, you've lost all credibility. So
yeah.
Maybe another theme that we didn't talk about. You notice everybody had collars.
Yeah.
So they were, in a sense, all slaves. There's just a hierarchy.
Right.
And there is sometimes when you're oppressing someone, chances are you're being oppressed somehow too.
Mm-hmm.
And you take the heat off yourself by oppressing those underneath you. And so Galt had a collar, and Klug had a collar. Everybody gets a collar. Galt had a collar. Klug had a collar. Lars had a collar.
Everybody
Anyway.
except the Jewish Space Laser Company at the middle of this conspiracy.
Yeah, right. So that was the other theme, is that sometimes the oppressors are often somehow a slave as well.
Yeah. Whether it's
and
a system or a person or whatever. Yeah, often.
Yeah, they're a slave of the system.
Yeah.
So I was going to say, yeah, they deserve to die, but maybe they didn't, just because they were just part of the same system.
Yeah, in a way, you kind of end up feeling bad for a lot of people in that situation.
Yeah, yeah. It also, and again, maybe this goes back to reparations after slavery too.
Mm-hmm.
You can't enslave generations of people and then throw them out into society and expect, okay, here, we're free now. Go ahead.
Right.
There's so many aspects of they're never going to make it unless you help them.
Right. I mean, they have been conditioned to be a certain way, and you're telling them to be the opposite of that now. Yeah.
Right. And also they haven't been given any of the things that everybody else has been given. Education. And then also there's the feeling of society towards them, because you can't just sign a document, free them, and then expect everyone's mind to change, because not everybody wanted that change anyway.
Yeah.
And so what's happening today in Florida, which is weird because this is so timely. The Florida teaching curriculum is that they're trying to change the narrative of what slavery was, and that they're talking about, oh, well, this benefited Black people. How the fuck did it benefit my ancestors who were killed or raped and had to have a slave owner's children and being called the N-word and not being able to have the same opportunities as someone who's different skin color and being thought of as 3/5 of a human being and so many other things. But they're gonna gloss over that and they're gonna teach children.
What they say is, well, they were fed well. That's a positive thing, right? There were providers, right? There were providers taking care of them. That's what Florida's saying right now.
Yep.
I had another example. Where did it go?
Damn. Now you spitting bars. Now we really spitting bars because the providers, we took care of them. They had a place to live.
Oh,
even though they were fucking miserable.
Well, they were taught skills. That's another popular one. Like,
oh my God.
We taught them how to farm the land or whatever, and so now they have a skill.
Yeah, we taught them how to pick cotton.
What?
And we took everything that they made.
Yep.
Sure.
Yep.
But they knew how to do it. Yeah. Yeah, they benefited.
Here, look at this one thing that might be good if you could twist it into a pretzel first, against all of these millions of things that were objectively bad.
Right.
How dare you say, oh, but there were some good things. This is the good, fine people on both sides. That's what this bullshit is.
No, there isn't. And I'm just appalled. I'm appalled. And while I'm very glad I don't live in Florida anymore, that mentality is not just in Florida.
Oh, no.
And I'm just appalled. This is about people not wanting to come to terms with what their ancestors did. And it's not like I'm calling every current white person we're just asking to acknowledge what fucking happened.
Yes.
Asking to acknowledge how this country came to be.
And half of this country won't even go that far.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just got me going on that whole thing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Hey, Allie. I see dead people.
There are.
Spit some mad bars.
It's dead, Jim.
We are assembled here today to pay final respects to our honored dead.
Klug, Lars, and an Andorian walk into a bar. That would have made a good joke thus far. Kirk killed them all in combat hand-to-hand to free all the slaves in the land. In the end, the providers honored their pact, and the former slaves would be trained and sent back. Deuces.
Let's get right to business.
Fine, I'm authorized to pay an equitable price. Federation has invested a great deal of money in our training. They're about due for a small return.
Listen, we pay off percentages. We're entitled to a little service for our money, huh?
Is this the way your citizens do business? Their right of petition?
They pay their percentages and the boss takes care of them.
Is there anything else?
We'd like to take a moment to thank our wonderful patrons. Thank you, patrons.
Thank you, patrons.
Of course, there are lots of great ways to help support us here at Humanist Trek. One of the free ways to do that is to annoyingly tell all of your friends how great this show is and how much you love it, and just do that ADHD thing where we nerd out about the thing we love.
Yeah, tell them that we're woke.
You won't have to tell them. You can have them listen to this episode as a great example. And of course, you can, leave a rating and review wherever you happen to listen to the show. One of the best ways to support us, though, is to drop some gold-pressed latinum in the bucket and become a patron of the show. We want to thank all of our patrons for supporting our show. We want to give a special thank you to our founding admirals. A special thanks to Russell, Ali, Peter, and Sarah. As a reminder, patrons get early access to all the episodes, merch at various levels, and we have some patron-only content. We did a fun riff on the South Park episode that riffs on Star Trek episode. So that was a good time. You can get that at patreon.com/humanisttrek. Pledge as little as $3 a month. It really does make a great big difference for us, and it really does mean a lot.
I assume you're loitering around here to learn what efficiency rating I plan to give your cadets.
Trainees, to the briefing room. Is that all you gotta say? What about my performance?
Aren't you dead?
I don't believe this was a fair test of my command abilities. There was no way to win.
There's no correct resolution. It's a test of character.
Now, what is that supposed to mean?
I am understandably curious.
May I ask you a question?
Who's been holding up the damn elevator?
All right, let's bring Becca back in for the exciting answer to last week's Starfleet Academy Cadet Challenge. Last time on Humanist Trek, you asked us.
The producers interrupted filming of this episode to give the cast what piece of news?
And I said, and Allie agreed, this is when they learned that the show was canceled, and that caused a huge fan uproar write-in campaign letter to save Star Trek. What's the real answer?
You're both right. They told the cast that the network had canceled the show. Everyone was depressed throughout the rest of production, but then fans started protesting and writing letters until NBC decided to keep it for another season.
Hell yeah.
We're going to write a letter.
Write a strongly worded letter to your supervisor.
They may have changed the course of history.
Yeah.
So, thank you to the fans from the 1960s. So.
Yeah. All right, well, next week we'll be reviewing A Piece of the Action, Season 2, Episode 17. Kirk investigates a planet with an Earth-like 1920s gangster culture. All I remember about this episode is, so it's like this mob mentality, like there's different mob whatever, and like the head mob guy got a book or something about 1920s Earth, and they read that, and that's what that's the rules for their society.
I hate those types of episodes. I hate them. I hate it when they go back to...
It's like a period piece.
1900s. Oh, I hate it.
Yeah.
So I don't remember anything.
All right, well, what's our question for A Piece of the Action?
In this episode, the crew of the Enterprise visits Sigma Iota 2. This civilization has a radio station. Who provided the voice of the radio announcer? And I'm going to give you a hint because I'm kind.
Thank you.
Don't go too broad. It is a regular cast member of the series.
Oh.
Okay.
Because I was going to go with the WKRP guy. We're throwing turkeys out of a helicopter or whatever, a shuttlecraft.
Yeah, I don't think he was old enough.
Casey Kasem.
Maybe. I was thinking Dick Clark.
Yeah. Okay, so a member of
if it's a regular person, a regular cast member, then it's got to be a dude, because it's probably not a woman.
Of course it's a dude. Oh, you know what else I remember about this episode? I want to say it was on, the original Nintendo. There was a Star Trek game, and I think this might have been PC even. Like Star Trek 25th Anniversary or something, I'm thinking. When I was a kid. And I had it's a PC DOS game, right? And
it came on a floppy.
Yeah. Or several. And I swear there was part of the storyline was this episode.
Your dork is showing.
I know. That still doesn't answer the radio station question. I feel like Sulu's got a really strong DJ voice.
Yeah, but I don't think it's Scotty because of that accent. I don't think he can.
Oh, but wait a minute. Hold on, because Scotty was known for doing all different. Like, that's not his voice. He's doing Scottish, right?
I thought he was really.
No, he came in when he auditioned. He did like 3 or 4 different dialects.
Really?
Yeah. And that's what they went with because they wanted like the engineer, and it was like, you know, back in the days of ship building. The Scots were like whatever.
If that is not his voice, whoa!
You just blew her mind.
Yeah.
I'm
kind of leaning towards Scotty now. I was thinking Sulu.
Now that I know that that's not his actual that horrible accent is not his normal.
Yeah.
I would say him because he's got the most like. Him or gosh, it could be Kirk, Scotty, or Spock. It could be all three because they both have that like deep.
Yeah, but so this is Earth in the 1920s, right? So would the announcer be like, "And now we're off to the races," and the way they talk?
I feel like Scotty could do that. That mid-Atlantic weird.
Yeah, I bet you're right.
I think Scotty could do that. James Doohan?
Jimmy Doohan. All right.
Jimmy Doohan.
So we're both going with Jimmy Doohan.
All right. Fine. Yeah.
I've got whiplash, but okay.
Yeah, well, you know how we do. We pick an answer and then we talk ourselves out of it. So if you'd like to pick an answer and talk yourself out of it, you can play along. No cheating, no Googling. Set a course for your nearest social media app, except not X or whatever Elon's calling his shit this week. Post your answer, share out this episode, use the hashtag Starfleet Challenge, and we'll pick a favorite. Maybe we'll read your guess like we did Karen's recently. Was that this episode?
No, it was the last episode.
It was the last episode. Whatever.
Jesus fucking Christ.
So we'll pick out our favorite. Next time on Humanist Trek, Star Trek, the original series, Season 2, Episode 17, A Piece of the Action.
Live long and prosper.
Kapla!
Humanist Trek is available wherever you replicate your podcast. Follow us on all the social medias at Humanist Trek. Become a patron at patreon.com/humanisttrek. Open hailing frequencies to podcast@humanisttrek.com and visit our website, humanisttrek.com. Humanist Trek is a production of Sarah Austin Media.